All right, so here we are officially. It is the Unity of Livonia, a Course in Miracles study group. And this is Tuesday, January 28th. And I don't have any preliminaries tonight, quite frankly. Uh, the material we're doing, I just think it's a lot to cover and it's very in depth. So I thought one of the things we could do to help ourselves is to just delve right into it without a lot of preliminaries. So if that's okay with you, by the way, again, anything you want to comment on or discuss or announce before we start? All right, just making sure of that. We are in the first supplement, and we started that, I think, January 7th, and it was called Psychotherapy. And we did the introduction and stuff, which was the purpose of psychotherapy, but it was a relatively short section. It started on page 2. And then we went uh, we're in the main long section of the supplement called the Process of Psychotherapy. And that started on page 4. And there's something like 7 sections altogether, but we are up to section Roman numeral 4 on page 9. And it's called the Process of Illness. Now, after this, Jesus is going to talk about the process of healing. So he's talked about certain certain things in the process of psychotherapy, and we're up to the section called the process of illness. And as usual, I think he's gonna blow our minds. Okay, so I told you, bring your Tylenol as needed. PRN for you nursing people here. Let's do our reading list then, if that's okay. Sherilyn is one. Who does not want to read? Let's do it that way.
I
That
don't want to
would
read.
be Sue is not reading. Any
I
others?
am not.
Hilda
I am
not
not
reading. Okay.
No.
And that
And Jeanette.
presupposes Nancy is reading tonight, right, Nancy?
You're right.
All right. So Sherilyn 1, Frank 2, Jan is not reading. Nancy is 3. Ron is 4. And how about I be reader 5 for now, and let's see how it goes. So without further ado, let's get into it. As difficult as it is, I think you'll find the insights incredible. Go ahead, Sherilyn. Let's.
All right. The process of illness, paragraph 1. As all therapy is psychotherapy, so all illness is mental illness. It is a judgment on the Son of God, and judgment is a mental activity. Judgment is a decision made again and again against creation and its creator. It is a decision to perceive the universe as you would have created it. It is a decision that truth can lie and must be lies. What then can illness be except an expression of sorrow and of guilt? And who would weep but for his innocence?
And let's go to the next person, Frank.
And once God's Son is seen as guilty, illness becomes inevitable. It has been asked for and will be received. And all who ask for illness have now condemned themselves to seek for remedies that cannot help because their faith is in the illness and not in salvation. There can be nothing that a changed mind cannot affect. There can be nothing.
Mm-hmm.
All external things are as only shadows of a decision already made. Change the decision, and how can a shadow be unchanged? Illness can be but a guilt shadow, grotesque and ugly, since it mimics delusion, deformity. It's a deformity as such, as real. What could be its shadow be except deformity? Deform, excuse me.
Thank you. Any surprises in what's being said, or maybe more fundamentally, what is being said? Maybe we should start there, right?
Okay.
I'll say something.
All
So
right.
we talked previously about all therapy is psychotherapy, both for the teacher and the student, both involved,
So
and that
go ahead.
we're dealing with mental illness.
That makes
All
sense.
illness is mental.
So we're dealing with mental illness. I agree. That's one of the things that's being said. Sue,
Yes.
you had a comment too?
Yes, first of all, none of this is new to me. However, the fact is that this is unity all over the place. This is also how they're treating POTS, how they're treating chronic fatigue syndrome, that we change our mind, we change our thoughts. We reframe an experience, and then we become a different person. Now, some people can actually create where the symptoms of a disease do not exist. The pain isn't there, but the disease is. We haven't learned how to cure the disease mentally that we know of, because obviously, if we go back in time in unity, diseases were cured. And so I am hearing this all over the place because of my granddaughter, and really it surprises me. Unlearn Your Pain is all about changing your mind in how you think.
Okay.
And that's done by a very prominent doctor at Providence Hospital, Mayo Clinic. What do? It's really all psychological for the two illnesses. But even when my son had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and I knew of this, we practiced changes and I talked to him in his sleep. So this is not new. It's just a lot of people have not accepted that that we really have that kind of power.
So how does in paragraph 2, the first sentence, it says, once God's Son is seen as guilty, illness becomes inevitable. So is that saying that the cause of illness is guilt? And not just Sue, anybody. I'm just dovetailing onto what Sue has said.
Yeah, it seems to say that.
Is the single cause that's being addressed by the psychologist, the psychotherapist that you're telling us, do they agree with this course that what they're working on is guilt. And if not, that's my point. For as much progress toward things that have been made, it probably still is not occurring that the fundamental problem for illness, what causes illness, is guilt. And I'm just offering that on an even deeper level. This is
I
new.
don't want to take over the class in any way, but I got to tell you about that
In
guilt.
background, there could be a tendency to do that, but I'm not going to let that happen. Go right ahead.
All right. What's her name? Louise Hay. When she first came out with all illness it begins with us in our minds, and people started to blame themselves, hate themselves, and plant a whole trip onto themselves. She stopped it immediately and sent out a what's the word I want to use? A correction to her book, and said, I don't want any more of this. I don't want any more guilt for being ill. I changed my mind. Don't think that way. And I'm very cautious with that, because even with my granddaughter, if she doesn't improve with all the steps they're giving her, she feels that it's because she didn't work hard enough or she didn't try hard enough, and then the anxiety goes up to here.
Mhm.
I hate to plant that on anybody, that they did it to themselves. You have to be very cautious of that, and I will never tell a person that.
Tell a person what?
That this came because you created it. And that's what what's her name did
Tell them
initially
that
in a
they're
book.
guilty. You would never tell them that they're guilty.
Absolutely not. And I wouldn't even insinuate that
No,
they had
that
anything
makes
to do with
perfect
their
sense,
illness.
but I don't believe it lines up precisely with what's being said here. And it's in that sense that I agree with you. It's not quite the perspective yet that seems loving and kind and things like that. So I agree, but I'm saying this is, for example, in paragraph 1, sentence 2, judgment is a decision made again and again against creation. Now, it's not saying that you're guilty and that you should feel bad or be punished or something like that. This is objectively saying in a very global, holistic way that illness is a judgment. Here, specifically, illness, sentence paragraph 1, sentence 2. Illness is a judgment on the Son of God, and judgment is a mental activity. Judgment is a decision against creation and its creator. What could that possibly mean? Let me ask it this way. Last night, Sherilyn and Ron, you were here on ACIM Talks, and we were studying chapter 12, our oracle text reading, right? And we were on that section called the attraction of love for love. Do you remember?
Yes.
The
Yes.
first thing it said was, do you really think you can kill the Son of God? Do you remember the very first sentence? If not, go look it up. Okay. But this is the same question that's being addressed here. The source of illness is not outside you. Now, what do we mean by illness?
Good question. That's
Well,
important.
I'm thinking,
How about dis-ease? How
Yes.
about anxiety? How about fear? Fear is an illness caused by your belief that you can be something other than what you are. Talk to me about, so you see, Sue, it's not on an anecdotal level that this is being discussed. It's being discussed on a global level, and it's covering all kinds of illnesses from paranoia to a broken arm to a broken heart. There's one cause for all of it that may be very surprising to all of you. And let's read a little more. He's going to talk about what the cause of illness really is in a global way, okay? Not just to focus on medical nor mental health or any of those specific disciplines, although the same principle can be applied in all of these differences. Bear with us a minute and let's just read a little bit more about the process of illness. We're up to Nancy, right?
This descent into hell follows step by step and an inevitable course once the decision that guilt is real has been made. Sickness and death and misery now stalk the earth in unrelenting waves, sometimes together and sometimes in grim succession. Yet all these things, however real they seem, are but illusions. Who could have faith in them once this is realized? And who could not have faith in them until he realizes this? Healing is therapy or correction, and we have said already and will say again, all therapy is psychotherapy. To heal the sick is but to bring this realization to them.
In a minute, let's do one more, Ron.
Okay. The word cure has come into disrepute among the more respectable therapists of the world, and justly so. For not one of them can cure, and not one of them understands healing. At worst, they but make the body real in their own minds, and having done so, seek for magic by which to heal the ills with which their minds endow it. How could such a process cure? It is ridiculous from start to finish. Yet having started, it must finish thus. It is as if God were the devil and must be found in evil. How could love be there? And how could sickness cure? Are not these both one question?
I have to laugh because it's like, I'm sorry, it's deep. So let me see. Don't you think this is deep?
yeah,
Let me see what I can do here, Holy Spirit. All right. Let's look at paragraph. We read 3 and 4, right?
yes.
Right.
And so it talks about the descent into hell follows step by step in an inevitable course once the decision that guilt is real has been made. So I'm going to try and jump over to how this applies in the psychotherapy patient relationship. All right. The therapist evaluates the patient and decides what the problem is that we're going to address. Yes?
Okay,
Mhm.
You with me, everybody?
yes,
Yeah.
And they kind of make a plan, right?
okay,
And
Right.
so here's what the patient's problem is, right?
all right,
And so you develop methods to address the problem, right?
all right,
Right.
In so doing, you missed the problem right there. You missed it. The problem is not going to be cured at the level of any specificity. So if you have therapies and modalities, they suffer from, I don't know, what, give me a diagnosis, somebody.
Rheumatoid arthritis.
Oh no, give me a mental health diagnosis. That's,
You said it affects everything. That's why
I know, but
I'm confused about
Bipolar.
that.
that's,
Bipolar.
yeah, let's say,
Schizophrenia.
huh?
Bipolar.
Say that again. Schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia, bipolar, okay.
All right. So right away, you missed it. That's why it won't cure. It'll take care of the symptom, maybe,
Maybe.
but you've been, through your approach that was real, you designed the whole therapy to help.
Gotcha.
Now, that's great, but you didn't cure, you helped. But the help will only be temporary, or as it said here, the issue will move from one iteration to another. Listen, remember in the course where Jesus says anger can consist of anything between a minor irritation and a rage. They're the same things that have kind of gone into other specific directions. There's a elevation, right, from anxiety to full-fledged anger. And so you think that one deserves a different solution than another. And what this is saying that's so astounding is that they're all symptoms of the same problem. The problem is that you think something can change what you were or what you were created to be. And so as you think, this is where illness is coming from. But it doesn't mean change part of your thinking, like you can have schizophrenia, but you can't have a heart attack, or you can have schizophrenia, but you can't have a broken heart. So the therapy gets too specific right away.
Okay,
So what we're after is a solution that actually cures. How are we doing?
okay,
Makes sense.
what's next?
And so, do you see why this is at a level I normally, it wouldn't have even crossed my mind before, and maybe not yours. That's why I want us to stay there. I'm reader 5, correct?
Yes.
Yes,
So, aren't we on paragraph 5?
Yes.
At best, and the word is perhaps questionable here, the healers, quote unquote, of the world may recognize the mind as the source of illness, but their error lies in the belief that what's it?
Mind.
That the mind can cure itself. This has some merit in a world where degrees of error is a meaningful concept. Yet must their cures remain temporary, or another illness rise instead? For death has not been overcome until the meaning of love is understood. And who can understand this without the word of God given by him to the Holy Spirit as his gift to you? Now, that sounds like they're talking about spiritual stuff. And how does that come into the clinical setting?
Oh, absolutely, it comes in.
Yeah.
So it comes into the clinical setting, maybe in more modern practices. It's more widespread. But the point is, to the degree that we learn to let go of other solutions, which in a sense are only magic because they can't really address the real problem, psychotherapy has limits. Remember, the first introductory section was called the limits of psychotherapy
Mhm.
over on page 5. So psychotherapy can be part of a process toward this holistic realization that you cannot change the way God created you. And how did God create you? They all say starts with a P. ERFECT. You thought they were kidding, right? You thought that was hyperbole, right? So, to the extent you do not allow that, your false beliefs will manifest. You'll become susceptible to imperfections, not because you are, but because you believe you are. Do you see why what you believe is both the sickness and the solution?
okay,
But then you get into this trouble of oneness. what you believe alone can't do the whole job because it's alone. It has to be a big enough switch so you can see it in a more collective way. So the problem is you gotta not only do it the right way in your solitude, but there has to be a collective coming together in order to restore the wholeness that gives this thing the power to make it manifest. It's a very tricky thing, isn't it? What we've done to ourselves through the splintering innate in the tiny mad idea. So even when you want to do right, and even when you do right, it's adding to a collective instead of making it worse. But you can't see the real power of it until it's done by, what do you call it, a quantum mass, to bring about a big change. It's kind of like your plants, they're growing all day, but it's invisible to you until it gets to be significant enough. It seems like in one day that new shoot just shoots up, but it was getting ready for this event for a long time, but it just took a while to register in a way that you could see it. So our work as teachers of God is to have faith in this individual sharing and this principle of coming together until we can see it blossom. So where I'm headed with this, as far as the process of illness, as usual, the course has a surprising definition, and it's going to offer a surprising, perhaps, solution in the next section, the process of healing. But for right now, I dare stop and ask for your comments, or if you disagree.
I will share that that was beautifully put. That was really very loving, and it hit home. And I will also share, in our world today, a diagnosis can be for good or for bad. If you have a diagnosis, you can give forth what you know. For example, a diagnosis of cancer, you know a procedure. For bad is, God forbid that diagnosis is wrong, or you just close your eyes to everything else. And again, I say, from the moment I entered Unity, all this was shared. And love yourself, love your life, appreciate yourself, forgiveness, always build yourself, which everybody on this call knows, so that you have different ways of making this work and turn it into a positive. A good therapist, in my eyes, yeah, they make a diagnosis, but listen to the patient. And they're not a patient anyway, they're a client. Listen to them. Ask them what they think is the solution. Often they will come up with it if you ask, and make them a part of the whole process. And turn it into a positive. You can do that with the ugliest of things with that kind of talent. And then ultimately, they may or may not, because it's very scary when you tell somebody you could change your mind and just ingrain it into yourself in the most beautiful way, and then you come to love yourself. Some people are terrified of that.
I know, yeah, which is strange in itself. Thanks, Sue. Other comments here. Let's do a little more then. We're back to Sherilyn, right?
Yes.
You know where we
Paragraph 6.
yes, 6.
Illness of any kind may be defined as the result of a view of the self as weak, vulnerable, evil, and endangered, and thus in need of constant defense. Yet, if such were really the self, defense would be impossible. They must overcome all limits perceived in the self at the same time making a new self-concept perceived in the self. At the same time making a new self-concept into which the old one cannot return. In a word, error is accepted as real and dealt with by illusions. Truth being brought to illusions, reality now becomes a threat and is perceived as evil. Love becomes feared because reality is love. Thus is the circle closed against the inroads of salvation.
Yeah, let's do one more. Boy, a lot there for me. Frank?
Yeah.
Illness is therefore a mistake and needs correction. And as we have already emphasized, correction cannot be achieved by first establishing the rightness of the mistake and then overlooking it. If illness is real, it cannot be overlooked in truth, for to overlook reality is insanity. Yet that is magic's purpose, to make illusions true through false perception. This cannot heal, for it opposes truth. Perhaps an illusion of health is substitute for a little while, but not for long. Fear cannot long be hidden by illusions, for it is part of them. For it is part of them. It will escape and take another form, being the source of an illusion, or illusions, of all illusions, excuse me.
Source of all illusions. So, paragraph 6 and 7. If this is true, and you are a psychotherapist or a teacher of God, what then is your approach to dealing with the process of illness? And I'm just going to ask this before we get to some of the solutions rendered on page 11, section 5, the process of healing. But if this is the real cause, here, what is the cause of, what is the process of illness? Section 4, the title. What is it? What are you getting out of it so far? What is the process of illness about? Now, I know we're talking in the realm of psychotherapist, patient, or client, but teacher of God to pupil, okay? From that perspective, what is the process of illness? how would you define it? Okay. You got your Tylenol there? Hilda, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, but I think I better not.
Go ahead.
I might just confuse it more than it is.
All right. So the process of illness, as lofty as this sounds, what power did Jesus use to cure?
His connection to God.
His client came under a different sort of thinking.
Right.
Simply said, rise up. And it was like a miracle, right?
But
Mhm.
that's the inspiration though that goes with that.
Okay. So could it be that he had sufficient mind power, sufficient purity of mind to see things differently? Here's a beggar or a crippled person, right? Did Jesus see a beggar or crippled person?
No.
No,
He probably saw through Christ's vision, wouldn't you think?
On
yes.
the whole.
Yes.
And that made all the difference, right?
Mhm.
I don't think Jim is there yet. Are you?
No.
But it still seems to hold true. When he saw the beggar or the crippled person, he did not see them as guilty of having any flaws whatsoever.
True.
So his remedy was not directed toward the flaw, the illness. It was directed toward undoing and not even recognizing that way of seeing things. And in that power, in that complete change of mind, performed miracles. He saw things differently, didn't he?
I think so.
And that was the teaching. Now, here's the thing. Here's why we've set limits to psychotherapy. The therapies we're still doing for the most part, and God bless all of the contributions, are still first seeing the problem as real and then attempting to cure it. Do you see how, at best, it's misguided?
Yes.
You can't see something as real. If it were real, how do you change reality? That's why in the Course, Jesus says, the wages of sin is death. Anybody remember a phrase like that? It's from the
Yes.
Bible, but he says it in the Course. He says that's true. The wages of sin is death. But you cannot sin. Therefore, such wages cannot apply to you because of what you are. But you don't believe what you are. You say, well, I believe it. Well, here, let me give you an example of what this belief looks like, and you drag out Jesus. Is that a good example of what this looks like?
Sounds like it.
So maybe we're not there yet, but I want to show you where this should evolve, where this is going. And it's not at the technique that you use of first seeing someone as flawed and then trying to fix them. We're back on, did we do 7 yet?
Mhm.
Who
No.
remembers?
I read 6.
I read 7.
All right.
Yeah.
Paragraph 6, sentence 7. I gotta make sure we just talk about that. About this is blowing me away. Sentence 7. Love becomes feared because reality is love. You seeing it? What's the comparison being made there? Thus is the circle closed against the inroads of salvation. Love becomes feared because reality is love. Do you see any distinctions being made in that sentence? It's just a nuanced thing that I notice. You'll notice that perhaps it's because it's the first word of a sentence. Love becomes fear because reality is love. I thought maybe it was capitalization. Like the first love is capitalized, and then the last word in the sentence is a small l. But you fear love if you use the definition that we've made of love.
I
Love
think,
comes, go ahead, Hilda.
yeah, I was thinking that sentence kind of means because we're talking about level 2, our earthly understanding. So it's the ego that is afraid of reality, because that would mean if you accept the love, the divine love, would mean that the ego, quote unquote, dies, if you will, in so many words.
Yeah. Thank you for coming to my rescue on that. That's the way I saw it too. Because in our world, love is not a completely welcome thing. It carries so many vulnerabilities
It's
and
true.
opportunities for disappointment or deception, or, okay, yeah, I want love, but boy, I gotta be cautious about love because, man, it's got a lot of pitfalls. And so, how can you find what you fear?
I don't think that's even, we're talking about that kind of relationship, which I'm talking about more in terms of accepting our higher identity, our higher self, and letting go of the lower self without, give love. You can, instead of using love here, maybe you could use God or the infinite or the universal power.
See, that's an example of what I'm talking about, Hilda,
Right.
because why would I have to use another word to get at it better? I agree. I'd
But
almost have to use another word than what most people think of it. We're
right,
talking about love with divine love,
right,
agape love,
right.
not the world romanticized love that the world brings to prominence, the one that's
Mhm.
fraught with relationship problems and compatibility issues that makes us want it, and yet kind of we don't want it, right? It's kind of ambivalent, isn't it? The love that we've been taught about. So it's almost given love a bad name, hasn't it?
Seems so.
Mhm.
And that's the way that sentence hit me. I think we're really in agreement, Hilda. It's
Uh-huh.
the real love versus the definition of love that we've been taught. So we got that part taken care of. Let's go to paragraph 8 and see where we left off. Are we up to Nancy? You still with us, Nancy? Sue had to leave, by the way.
Yeah,
Remember?
I'm leaving
On her
now.
way.
Oh, okay, Sue.
Good night.
See you
Good
soon,
night.
dear. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. This
Here.
was very
Bye.
interesting. I took notes. I liked some of the things, how they were put was beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Sue.
You
I'm
will.
thinking
Good
Bye,
to see you, Sue.
everybody.
See
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
So listen, we're on paragraph 8, aren't we?
Correct.
Yes.
Nancy, it's your turn.
Sickness is insanity because all sickness is mental illness, and in it there are no degrees. One of the illusions by which sickness is perceived as real is the belief that illness varies in intensity, that the degree of threat differs according to the form it takes. Herein lies the basis of all errors, for all of them are but attempts to compromise by saying just a little bit of hell. This is a mockery so alien to God that it must be forever inconceivable. But the insane believe it because they are insane.
Ron.
A madman will defend his own illusions because in them he sees his own salvation. Thus he will attack the one who tries to save him from them, believing that he is attacking him. His curious circle of attack defense is one of the most difficult problems with which the psychotherapist must deal. In fact, this is his central task, the core of psychotherapy. The therapist is seen as one who is attacking the patient's most cherished possession, his picture of himself. And since this picture has become the patient's security as he perceives it, the therapist cannot but be seen as a real source of danger, to be attacked and even killed.
You know,
Hmm.
let me let me try and read one more. Let's read the last 2 paragraphs. I'll go next. So I'm on paragraph 10.
Mhm.
The psychotherapist then has a tremendous responsibility. He must meet attack without attack, and therefore without defense. It is his task to demonstrate that defenses are not necessary and that defenselessness is strength. This must be his teaching if his lesson is to be that sanity is safe. It cannot be too strongly emphasized that the insane believe that sanity is threat. This is the corollary of the original sin, the belief that guilt is real and fully justified. It is therefore the psychotherapist's function, to teach that guilt being unreal cannot be justified, but neither is it safe. and thus it must remain unwanted as well as unreal. And then Sherilyn, read that last one, and then we
Salvation's,
got a lot to talk about.
yes, salvation's single doctrine is the goal of all therapy. Relieve the mind of the insane burden of guilt it carries so warily, and healing is accomplished. The body is not cured. It is merely recognized as what it is. Seen rightly, its purpose can be understood. What is the need for sickness then? Given this single shift, all else will follow. There is no need for complicated change. There is no need for long analyses and wearying discussion and pursuits. The truth is simple, being one for all.
So listen, let's start here, and I'll just put something on the table for all of these paragraphs here. It keeps talking about guilt, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
What are we guilty of?
Our false thinking, our unreality, our illusions.
And why do they make us feel guilty?
Because we believe them.
Because they're not true.
They're not true, but we believe them.
And deep down, we have to admit, remember last night it started out that sentence that said, do you really believe you can crucify God's son? But you run around here acting like you did and carrying the guilt of doing that. Now, what was the crime that you are feeling guilty about? That you separated from your source in your endeavor to be your own individual self. Do you really think you could do that? Be separate from your source?
We may think so.
Do you really?
No, but some may think that, or I had me a
It's an
thought.
illusion.
Is that possible?
No,
Given what you know and have had everyone talk about this source that runs everything, do you really think that you can go against it?
I have.
You have not.
I think I have thought so.
And that is where all your illness is coming from the guilt that you did something that you didn't do. The
That's right.
Son of God is innocent. It didn't break away from its source and have all of its serial adventures and doing everything the way that it wanted to do it and suffering the consequences of that. You didn't really trap yourself in a world of suffering,
But I thought I did.
but you thought you did. And what you ask for, you shall receive.
And I did.
I didn't say it would be real. Okay, don't be ridiculous. But I'll indulge you, if for no other reason than to help you understand it's impossible and that you should be thankful that it is impossible. it never happened because it's impossible. It's impossible. So this underlying guilt for what you've never done has been the cause of all of your misery and pain. You felt separate, alone. You had to defend yourself. You had to be in charge of everything. You had to make sure you made right decisions and not the wrong one, or your destiny would be changed from stuff like heaven to hell. That's a lot of baggage to carry.
But I did.
And,
Stop it.
and you
Oh, I
did it
don't. Did.
unnecessarily. So if you want to get rid of the baggage, as Frank was saying, the way to solve that issue is not by handling and working with your baggage and getting rid of it. It's by letting go of the whole notion that any of this is even possible. Do you really think you can change what God created you to be?
I do not.
Seriously.
Yes, I do.
Seriously, Frank? Even you, deep down, are afraid. What the hell have I got myself into here? Maybe you won't say it out loud.
Okay.
But isn't that little fear, that little anxiety, that little uncertainty that we all carry around with us? It's like, even in good times, it's like we're waiting on the other shoe to fall. Like, okay, I'm happy now, but I know now I'm going to get back into the rat race and have to deal with more problems. So even my happiness now is tinged by what I think the future holds. That's the guilt we're talking about that is the cause of illness. It may manifest in a way that seems completely remote from what we're talking about here. But he's saying that is the cause of all illness. The idea of separation. Look who's here, Joni. Because give you a minute to ponder that. Remember, I'm trying to cover like the last 3 paragraphs. Hey, Joan, welcome. Let me get her unmuted. Hi, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I was out with some girls and I kind of
Hey,
lost track of time.
well, we know about your social schedule, and it's okay. We know how popular you are. Thank you for coming. We're on page 11 in the psychotherapy section, and we just finished the section called the process of illness. And we were with the last 3 paragraphs. Rev Jim's here trying to offer a summary because nobody was saying nothing. So now that Joan's here, I know we're going to whisk right through the rest of this. Are you surprised at what the process of illness is? Is it what you thought it was?
No.
You may disagree with this, but would you at least give it credit for, I never thought of it that way. that kind of category. All right. So we've got alternatives on the table in terms of the process of illness. And all illness is the result of a mistake that you think that you can change what God created. Just you thinking about that?
Yes.
God said it's this, this, and this. And you said, no, I want to change it to that, and that. And you actually think you can. It's going to get frustrating eventually, isn't it?
Yes.
It's very hard to uphold a lie, but it takes no effort at all to uphold the truth. And yet, there's this thing in me called an ego who won't listen to reason, who thinks I can change God's will no matter what. But then you say, why? Why would you want to change the will of love? Well, I like to be different.
Like to suffer.
Translated, I'm insane. That's why. I'm as insane as the tiny mad idea that you manifested. I am the personification, no, the manifestation of what you made by thinking you could possibly kill the Son of God. Who in their right mind would even entertain a notion like that? Into creation where all is one, there crept a tiny mad idea that you forgot to laugh at? What, it caught us by surprise or something? How are we doing?
Good.
Thank you, Frank.
What I was talking about, Jim, was
Pardon me?
a period of my life 40 years ago.
Wait, say that again, sir.
What I was talking about was a period of my life 40 years ago when I lived an insane life.
Well, I'm glad to hear you see it in that perspective. And a lot of our brothers and sisters might be willing to see it a different way. It's just that nobody's ever told them there is a different way. So I'm very grateful for A Course in Miracles and my other spiritual practices and path along the way. It's just that I feel really confident about this one because, as crazy as it seems, as contradictory as it seemed at first to everything I thought was real and true, to the extent that we've been willing to give it a chance, it is offering the premise that makes more sense collectively than any other the paths I mean, they all kind of say this. This must be the one for me. It's laid out in a kind of academic way so you can work with it and stuff like that. But maybe the answers are not what we thought they were. Who's our next reader? We've got time to start this process of healing, if that's all right with you. Did we leave off with, who read last?
I read 11, paragraph
Oh,
11.
Cheryl. So now we're up to Frank, aren't we, for the new
Mhm.
section?
Okay. Roman numeral 5, the process of healing. While truth is simple, it must still be taught to those who have already lost their way in endless mazes of complexity. This is the great illusion. In the wake comes the inevitable belief that to be saved, the mind must control the unknown. This strange belief relies on certain steps which never reach to consciousness. First, it is ushered in by the belief that there are no forces to be overcome.
No, there are forces, Frank.
Verses.
I'm having trouble reading right now.
All
First,
right.
is ushered in by the belief that there are forces to be overcome, to be alive at all. And next, it means as if these forces can be held at bay only by an inflated sense of self that beholds in darkness what is truth felt, and seeks to raise illusion to the light.
Let's get, who are we up to? Nancy? Let's do that next one. Nancy, please.
Okay.
Mhm.
Let us remember that the ones who come to us for help are bitterly afraid. What they believe will help can only harm. What they believe will harm alone can help. Progress becomes impossible until the patient is persuaded to reverse his twisted way of looking at the world, his twisted way of looking at himself. The truth is simple, yet it must be taught to those who think it will endanger them. It must be taught to those who will attack because they feel endangered, and to those who need the lessons of defenselessness above all else to show them what is strength.
Comments here, folks. Do you see the opposition
Mhm.
that is innate in our brothers and sisters? So how can we approach them in a way that teaches, but no, in a way that does not allow defensiveness so that teaching can be done? In other words, a lot of our teaching is contingent upon getting around the defenses. The defenses are the sickness. The defenses are the ego that we're trying to get to tell them is at the root of the problem. The ego is going to be the one that is defending them. Again, when you first heard us talk about the ego, it wasn't you thought it maybe it's this nice little thing that we can isolate and sit it out on a table to be examined and to see how it works and just objectively look at it at work. And now here we are years later, still trying to help us see what our ego is. It's not this stagnant thing, it's alive and well and breathing with the breath of life that we, God's kids, have given it. Do you know how powerful God's kids are? You say, well, that's great. But
Mhm.
depending on their decision, it can be tragic. Same power, different purpose. It's no less strong, but now it's strong as an opposition to health. So what's the Savior to do? How are you going to approach that pupil or that patient in the clinical psychotherapy realm? That's what this supplement is about. So if you want to bring about true healing, okay, they're talking now about how to do that. We're on the process of healing. Let me oh, I didn't know Janet left. Let's let her back in. Nancy, are you there?
Yes, I am.
What are your thoughts? Let's get some level heads in here to discuss the process of healing. And it started out with what the roadblocks to healing are going to be, right, Nancy?
Right.
You know, I'm not putting you on the spot, right?
Wrong.
We're the safe space. Anything you want to say at all?
I think it's important, I mean, again, to see the truth of who we really are when, if you're going through psychotherapy, to see the Christ within and to see who we truly are,
Yes.
which is
And
love.
who's going through psychotherapy? Who's going to psychotherapy?
All of us.
What's that?
All of us can.
All of us. Okay. So don't just think about it as we normally would. Remember, it said all therapy is psychotherapy. And all therapy then is an attempt to get the patient or client to let go of the false image of what they are and return to what they are. What is it that would have you make a false image of yourself? It would have to be incumbent to an effort to implement separation. You are not separate. You would have to go to great lengths to convince yourself that you are. And look at the lengths we've gone to. We've created these fences called bodies. We've even created a separate world where God cannot be. Now, how did we do this? With the power of the child of God. Powerful stuff, right?
Right.
Right.
Same power, it still works in the wrong direction. The only fail-safe is that it can't be real. So stop beating yourself up. What you did is not right or wrong. It's meaningless. Being an illusion, it has no value because it's nothing. I'm not going to punish you for nothing. So stop being afraid. Thank you, Nancy. And I got that look on everybody's face that I'm growing to love. let's do one or two more paragraphs before we call it an evening here. Who's reading next? Ron? Is that right or wrong? Do you even know where we are? Oh, wait, hold on, Ron. You are
You're
muted
not.
for some reason.
Unmute, there you
Okay.
go.
Could you, where are you starting? What paragraph?
Should be 3.
Yes. Thank you, Ron. Right there, please.
Number 3, right?
Yes.
The ear translates, it does not hear. The eye reproduces, it does not see. Their task is to make agreeable whatever is called on, however disagreeable it may be.
I'm sorry. Where are you?
What,
reading?
Paragraph.
On
We're,
page 12?
we're on page 12.
Oh,
right?
I'm on my page.
What paragraph?
page 12, number 3.
Yes. If this world were ideal is what I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
I went to the bathroom and I wasn't sure where
I
we were.
understand.
So I was on the wrong number 3. So
Hey, it can happen.
Okay.
let's try that again. If this world were ideal, there could perhaps be ideal therapy, and yet it would be useless in an ideal state. We speak of ideal teaching in a world in which the perfect teacher could not long remain. The perfect psychotherapist is but a glimmer of a thought not yet conceived. But still we speak of what can yet be done in helping the insane within the bounds of the attainable. While they are sick, they can and must be helped. No more than that is asked of psychotherapy. No less than all he has to give is worthy of the therapist. For God himself holds out his brother as his savior from the world.
And then I'll do 4. Healing is holy. Nothing in the world is holier than helping one who asks for help. And 2, come very close to God in this attempt, however limited, however lacking in sincerity. Where 2 have joined for healing, God is there. And he has guaranteed that he will hear and answer them in truth. They can be sure that healing is a process he directs because it is according to his will. We have his word to guide us as we try to help our brothers. Let us not forget that we are helpless of ourselves and lean upon a strength beyond our little scope for what to teach as well as what to learn. So there you have it, 3 and 4. What about 3?
I love the sentence they're talking about the perfect teacher saying the perfect psychotherapist is but a glimmer of a thought not yet conceived. And I think that probably brings home what psychotherapy is all about. You go to you go, if you are in need of help, you would go to this person and this person would help you get those thoughts into your own and express them in your own mind, rather than somebody telling you what you need to think, but it has to come from you. So the thought is there, but it's sort of like transmitted to you, and then you all of a sudden understand what you got to do.
What is the process by which you would go about understanding so that you could help them? Let's
But
talk.
I think it also starts with opening your mind to spirit and to be guided,
Right?
rather than to
Yes.
say, well, this is, I think you should do such and such. I mean, that wouldn't work.
So
But
go ahead, dear. I'm sorry.
I mean, no, I mean, I'm saying just wait for spirit to guide you, like what to say and what to do. It will
Yeah.
come to it will. So the ideas like a therapist would really be just an interloper between
Nah,
God
well
and
said,
between the person seeking the advice.
right? Because where two or more are joined,
Right.
there's a third party. Isn't that what he said?
Absolutely.
So when we come together as imperfect teachers and students, the real capital T teacher will be present if we will allow it.
Right.
Now, why would you not allow it? Is it because you're a patient? Or is it because you're a therapist that doesn't understand that it's the master teacher that will conduct your session? All you did, as Hilda said, you would be the interloper, the connection
Connection.
point for spirit to take the lead.
Right.
And so you see how there is many unenlightened therapists are there as there are unenlightened patients. Because if the therapists were completely enlightened, they wouldn't be here. It's quite a dilemma, isn't it? So what we have to do is to allow this solution to take place at the speed of this thing called time that we made. So the solution will be a process. Do you see why we first called it the process of illness? And now it's the process of healing. But don't despair, because even when it looks like healing has not occurred, it's like the growth of your plants. It takes a lot before it becomes manifest to you. But don't despair, because every time two are joined for a unified goal, healing occurs at some level. So we're making progress, you see. I'm not going to keep you guys longer. We read healing is holy, right? So isn't that we'll start at number 5 next time? No, we'll probably
We're
just
past that.
say that again.
We are on paragraph 5 under
Yes,
process of
brother
healing.
seeking aid, right? But
Yes.
we're not gonna continue tonight. I
No.
would ask that you guys try your hand at the last 3 paragraphs, and
Okay.
then the next time we meet will be at the bottom of page 13,
Yes.
where it's called the definition of healing, and we'll continue our route. Are you sorry you got into this in the first
No.
No.
Been very helpful.
I love your courage on this, and I'm just feeling grateful that I'm trying to just let spirit speak to me and see if we can connect on this, because it is so radical from everything that I've been taught. Anyhow,
See, you're just doing what you were asked to do for us.
yeah, I'm supposed to show up. I did a little prep yesterday. I find it so deep, I need to at least read it over myself first.
Oh, yeah.
But it's working out okay, and I think we're getting some things out of it. I don't mean to belabor. Frank, you doing okay? Did you have a good session tonight?
That's good session. Thank you.
All right. Nancy, I can't see you. I hope you're smiling.
I'm smiling. Excellent session again. Thank you.
All right. And same to you, my friend Jan. We'll let you stay incognito here. If there aren't any other comments, we'll close out for tonight, and thank you for your time again.
Thank you, Jim.
Yes,
Thank you.
sir.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. I am the light of God.
I am.
And
the light of God.
I am the love of God.
I
I am the
love
love
of
of God.
I am the power of God.
I
I
am
am the
the
power of God.
I am the presence of God.
I am.
I am the
presence
presence of God.
Therefore,
Therefore,
wherever I am,
Wherever
wherever I am,
God is,
God
God
is,
and all
and
is well.
all is well.
all as well.
There is nothing to fear.
there is nothing.
There's nothing to fear.
There is only love.
There
There is
only
only
love.
love.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Yeah. I love you, everyone.
We love you.
Love you
Yeah.
back.
Thank you, Jim.
Love you all.
I'll see you soon.
Have a blessed
Okay.
For the creek rising, though, okay? Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.